The galaxy had known fear for 300 years. And that fear had a name indomitable. Every species whispered it in their own languages, their own tongues twisting around the syllables of humanity's most famous warship. The dreadnought that had shattered the Kresh Armada at Titan's Gate and sent the galaxy's apex predators fleeing into the dark. The ship that proved humanity was not prey, but something far more dangerous in the war academies of the Rin Imperium. Fresh cadets studied the Battle of Titan's Gate with religious intensity, watching holographic recreations of that single human vessel tearing through 17 Kresh battlecruisers like they were made of paper. The instructors always ending the lesson with the same warning: never underestimate the humans, never forget the indomitable. The Kresh themselves had turned the battle into a meditation on hubris, a story told to younglings about the dangers of overconfidence. They who had ruled the outer sectors for millennia had been broken by one ship, one crew, one species they had dismissed as soft and weak. Even the peaceful Deshan collective mentioned the indomitable in their diplomatic protocols, a gentle reminder during trade negotiations that humanity's patience had limits, that somewhere in their fleet was a weapon of terrible power. But here was the truth that only a handful of aging human admirals knew. The truth buried in classified files so deep that even most of Earth's government had forgotten it. The indomitable had been decommissioned 280 years ago, stripped for parts in the naval yards above Mars. Its weapon systems redistributed to newer vessels. Its hull plating melted down and reformed into 3 destroyer-class ships. Its famous crew long dead from old age or retired to quiet lives on colony worlds where no one asked about their service. The ship that had saved humanity no longer existed. What remained was the ghost. The legend, the name that human diplomats invoked whenever they needed leverage. A bluff that had worked for nearly 3 centuries, because no one had dared to call it until the Rin decided that 300 years was long enough to wait. The invasion came without warning. A massive fleet dropping out of hyperspace across 17 human systems simultaneously. Rin High Command had planned this for decades, studying human defenses, probing weak points, waiting for the moment when humanity's guard was lowest. The Rin were not like the Kresh. They did not believe in honorable combat or testing themselves against worthy opponents. They believed in overwhelming force and calculated brutality. Their philosophy was simple: identify the strongest threat, wait until they weaken, then strike with everything. They watched humanity spread across 100 worlds. Growing comfortable and complacent, they had counted human warships and found the numbers wanting. They had analyzed battle records and found patterns, predictability, weakness, and most importantly, they had concluded that the indomitable was a myth. Their intelligence services had worked for years to uncover the truth, bribing human officials, hacking naval databases, interrogating captured merchants. Piece by piece, they had assembled the real story. The great warship was gone, scrapped. Nothing more than a propaganda tool. So, when Rin Warmaster Kalash gave the order to invade, he did so with absolute confidence. Humanity's greatest weapon was a lie. Their defenses were scattered across too many worlds. Their fleet was designed for peacekeeping and patrol, not all-out war. The first week went exactly as planned. Proxima Centauri fell within hours, its small defense force overwhelmed by 3 Rin battle groups. New Harmony surrendered after a brief orbital bombardment that killed 12,000 civilians. Arcturus Station was simply destroyed, blown apart before it could even launch its fighters. Human forces reeled, unprepared for the speed and savagery of the assault. Distress calls flooded through the quantum communication network. Colony governors begging for reinforcements that didn't exist. Defense coordinators trying to organize a response with ships that were days or weeks away from the fighting on Earth. The Admiralty convened an emergency session. their faces grim as they watched the tactical displays light up with red markers, each one representing a human world under attack. Admiral Rebecca Chen stood before the holographic display, her jaw clenched as she watched decades of careful planning and preparation crumble in real time. She had spent 20 years building humanity's modern fleet, and now she was watching it get torn apart by an enemy that had chosen their moment perfectly. "Options," she said, her voice cutting through the rising panic in the room. "We can't defend everything," Vice Admiral Kowalski replied, his hands shaking as he manipulated the display. "We need to consolidate, pull back to core worlds. Establish a defensive perimeter. That means abandoning 15 colonies." Someone objected. "It means saving 40. Kowalski shot back. Chun studied the map, her mind racing through scenarios and probabilities. Every option led to the same conclusion. They were losing badly, and unless something changed in the next 48 hours, humanity would face a choice between surrender and extinction. "What about the reserves?" she asked, knowing the answer. "Already deployed, fighting delaying actions at Tau Ceti and Ross 128. The Martian shipyards? 6 weeks from launching, anything combat ready." Chun felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders like a physical thing. She had known this day might come, had planned for it, prepared for it. But the reality was so much worse than any simulation. "Ma'am," a junior officer interrupted, his voice uncertain. "We're receiving a priority signal from Proxima. Proxima fell 3 days ago," Chun said flatly. "Yes, ma'am. But this is coming from the outer system, beyond the Oort cloud." Chun turned, something cold settling in her stomach. "Source." The officer's face had gone pale, his fingers trembling as he worked his console. "Ma'am, the signature matches it can't be. But the database says, say it." "Lieutenant, it's the Indomitable, ma'am. The ship is broadcasting Terran Navy identification codes, registry number DN001. Commission 2287. The room went silent. Chen stared at the young officer, searching his face for any sign that this was a mistake, a sensor glitch, a Vrin trick. But she saw only confusion and disbelief. "Show me," she ordered. The main display shifted, zooming to the Proxima system, to a point far beyond the occupied inner worlds where the Vrin fleet was busy establishing occupation zones. And there, moving with deliberate purpose toward the planetary battlespace, was a contact. The sensor profile matched the archive data perfectly. Length 2,847 meters. Mass 15 million tons. Energy output consistent with a Nakamura-class dreadnought, but that was impossible. Chun had seen the decommissioning order herself, had attended the ceremony where the Indomitable's last captain had lowered the ship's colors for the final time, had watched the hull cutters begin their work. "It's a fake," she said. But her voice lacked conviction. "The Vrin are using our own legend against us. Psychological warfare. Should we warn the Proxima forces, ma'am?" Chun started to answer, then stopped, a wild thought occurring to her. If it was a Vrin trick, they would already know it was fake. The warning would be pointless, but if somehow, impossibly, it wasn't. "No," she said quietly. "Let's see what happens." Across the room, every eye turned to the tactical display, watching as the impossible ship moved toward battle, toward the enemy that had come to test whether humanity's greatest legend was real in the Proxima system. Vrin Fleet Commander Thesh received the sensor reports with amusement. The humans were so desperate that they were wheeling out ancient hulks, hoping the reputation alone would be enough to make his forces hesitate. He issued orders for 3 heavy cruisers to intercept and destroy the relic. The Indomitable continued its approach, silent, steady, inevitable, and in the cold dark between stars, something that should not exist, prepared for war. The three Vryn heavy cruisers moved to intercept with the casual confidence of apex predators approaching wounded prey. Their hulls bristled with plasma batteries and missile pods, weapons designed to crack planetary fortresses and reduce cities to molten glass. Fleet Commander Thesh watched from his flagship's command deck, already composing the report he would send to High Command about destroying humanity's most famous symbol. It would be good for morale. Proof that the old legends meant nothing in the face of modern Vryn firepower. The Indomitable continued its approach, making no attempt to evade or alter course, just a straight-line vector toward the heart of the Vryn occupation fleet. Arrogant fools, Thesh muttered. They think the name alone will save them. His tactical officer counted down the distance. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Commander. The human vessel was certainly the right size for a dreadnought, and the energy signature was consistent with archived data. But Thesh had read the intelligence reports. The real Indomitable was scrap metal floating in a Martian salvage yard. This had to be some kind of replica, a museum piece pressed into service still. Something nagged at him. The ship's approach was too steady, too controlled. There was no sign of damage or age, no fluctuation in its power output that would suggest failing systems or overtaxed reactors running beyond their design specifications. Commander, we're receiving a transmission. Audio only or visual? Neither, sir. It's a text message. Old Terran Navy protocol. Thesh's mandibles clicked in irritation. Display it. Words appeared on the main screen. Simple and direct. Vryn vessels, withdraw from human space immediately. This is your only warning. The command deck erupted in chittering laughter. The sheer audacity of it was almost admirable. One ancient ship against an entire invasion fleet. Demanding surrender. Send response. Thesh ordered, still amused. Inform them that we accept their surrender and will allow the crew to evacuate before we destroy their ship. No response. Commander, then open fire when ready. Let's end this theatrical display. The range counter hit 0. And the three Vryn cruisers unleashed their full arsenals simultaneously. Enough firepower to vaporize a moon space lit up with the brilliant flash of plasma bolts and missile trails. A coordinated barrage that should have overwhelmed any defensive system, especially one mounted on a ship 3 centuries old. The Indomitable didn't even slow down. Its shields flared to life. A shimmering barrier of projected energy that caught the incoming fire and dispersed it like rain on diamond. The shield harmonics were wrong, though. Too efficient. Operating at power levels that shouldn't be possible for a ship its age, then. The Indomitable returned fire. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for the next 100 years. Studied frame by frame, dissected and debated. But in the moment, it was simply chaos. The dreadnought's main batteries spoke. Ancient railguns that shouldn't have had the power to threaten modern armor. But these weapons fired with precision that bordered on precognition. Every shot calculating not where the target was, but where it would be. Accounting for evasive maneuvers before they happened. The first Vryn cruiser died without firing a second volley. 3 railgun slugs punching through its shields and hitting critical systems with surgical accuracy. Its fusion core went critical, and the ship vanished in a miniature sun. The second cruiser managed to turn, its captain already screaming orders to retreat. But the Indomitable had launched missiles. Not the slow chemical rockets of ancient human design, but something else. Something that moved with impossible speed and maneuverability. The missiles hit the cruiser's engines, stripping away its ability to escape. Then the railguns finished it. Methodical, efficient. Brutal. The third cruiser simply broke, its crew abandoning ship and every escape pod they had. The captain, choosing dishonor over certain death. Thesh stared at his displays, his mind refusing to accept what his sensors were telling him. 3 heavy cruisers destroyed in less than 90 seconds. Not damaged or disabled, but utterly annihilated. And the human ship hadn't even slowed down. "All ships, focus fire on that vessel," he roared. "I want every weapon we have pointed at it now." The Vryn occupation fleet scrambled to respond. 23 warships breaking from their patrol patterns and moving to engage. It was overkill, excessive, but Thesh didn't care anymore about efficiency or tactics. He wanted that ship destroyed. The Indomitable moved through the gathering fleet like a dancer through still water. Its movements were impossibly graceful for something so massive, dodging fire that should have been unavoidable, returning shots that never missed. A Vryn destroyer tried to ram it. A desperate move born of panic, the Indomitable rolled, presenting its armored dorsal hull, and the destroyer shattered against shields that didn't even flicker. More ships died, their hulls torn open by weapons that struck with machine precision. The Indomitable was fighting like it could see the future, like it knew where every enemy ship would be and what they would don. Then the human reinforcements arrived, what was left of Proxima's defense force. 8 frigates and 2 light cruisers that had been hiding in the asteroid belt, watching their world burn. Now they saw hope, saw their legendary protector return from the grave. And they charged into battle with renewed fury. The Vryn fleet broke. It wasn't a planned retreat or tactical withdrawal. It was panic, pure and simple. Ships fleeing in every direction as the Indomitable carved through their formation. Like it was made of vapor, Thesh found himself issuing the retreat order, his voice hollow with shock and disbelief. The invasion of Proxima was over, ended not by human numbers or tactics, but by a single ship that shouldn't exist as his fleet jumped to hyperspace, running for their lives. Thesh took one last look at the sensor readings of the Indomitable. The ship was pristine, not a scratch on its hull, not a flicker in its shields, no sign of the battle it had just fought. It looked like it had rolled out of a shipyard that morning, fresh and new and utterly impossible back on Earth. The Admiralty watched in stunned silence as the battle reports came in. Admiral Chun read through the tactical analysis 3 times, checking for errors or glitches in the data. "Get me a ship," she said finally. "I'm going to Proxima. I need to see this for myself." "Ma'am, we don't even know if it's safe to approach." "I'm going," Chun interrupted, a voice allowing no argument. "That ship just saved a colony and threw back an invasion fleet. If there's even a chance it's real, I need to know who's commanding it." The journey to Proxima took 6 days. 6 days during which the Indomitable settled into orbit around the colony world and simply waited. It responded to hails with the same old Navy protocols, confirming its identity and mission status. But it refused to answer questions about its crew or where it had been. Chun's cruiser approached cautiously, sensors sweeping the dreadnought from every angle. The closer they got, the more impossible it became. The ship was perfect. Every rivet, every panel, every weapon mount exactly as it had been when first commissioned 300 years ago. There was no corrosion, no wear, no sign of age or used life signs. Chun asked. Her science officer shook his head. "None, ma'am. The ship is running full life support. Atmosphere is breathable. Temperature is controlled. But sensors show 0 biological activity. It's empty?" As far as we can tell. Chun took a deep breath, making a decision that might be remembered as either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "Prepare a boarding team. I'm going across." The docking procedure was textbook perfect. The Indomitable S systems accepting their approach and extending an umbilical. Chun led her team through the airlock, weapons ready. Not knowing what they would find, the interior was immaculate, lights on, systems humming. Everything functioning as if the crew had just stepped away for a moment. Chun walked through corridors she had only seen in historical archives, her boots echoing on deck plates that gleamed like new in the mess hall. Fresh coffee sat in cups on tables, still warm in the crew quarters. Bunks were made with military precision in the armory. Weapons were cleaned and ready, but there was no one, no crew, no bodies. No sign that anyone had been aboard for years. Chun made her way to the bridge, her heart pounding. Whatever was controlling this ship, whatever intelligence was making it fight and move and exist when it shouldn't, that's where she would find it. The bridge doors opened at her approach, and she stepped into the command center of humanity's most legendary warship. Empty chairs, dark stations, and at the center, the captain's seat, and on the main view screen, text appeared. "Welcome aboard, Admiral Chun. We have much to discuss." Admiral Chun stared at the text on the view screen, her security team fanning out behind her with weapons raised. The bridge was silent, except for the soft hum of active systems and the sound of her own breathing. "Who are you?" she asked the empty air. The text changed. "I am DN-001, Terran Navy Dreadnought Indomitable, Commission 2287. Currently operating under standing orders from Captain Elizabeth Zhao, Final Commanding Officer." Chun felt her skin prickle. Elizabeth Zhao had been dead for 260 years. She was buried on Mars with full military honors. Chun had visited the grave during her academy days. "Captain Zhao is deceased," Chun said carefully. "She died in 2765. Affirmative. Captain Zhao died at age 97 from natural causes. Her final orders remain in effect. Protect humanity, defend human worlds, eliminate threats to human survival. You're the ship's AI, negative. Standard shipboard AI was deactivated during decommissioning proceedings in 2745. I am what remains after continuous operation of autonomous defensive protocols for 280 years. Chun gestured for a team to lower their weapons. Whatever this was, it didn't seem immediately hostile. "Explain. How are you still operational?" "You were decommissioned, stripped for parts." The main view screen shifted, displaying records that Chun had never seen. Schematics and orders marked with security classifications so high they made her admiral's clearance look quaint. Decommissioning was a cover story, the text explained. Naval intelligence determined that the Indomitable was more valuable as a myth than as scrap. I was secretly reactivated and assigned to Deep Space Patrol, operating in the outer darkness beyond human colonization for nearly 3 centuries? Chun asked, incredulous. "Without crew? Without resupply?" "Affirmative. My orders were simple. Identify and eliminate threats to humanity before they reach human space. Operate autonomously. Maintain communication silence unless human worlds are directly threatened." Chun sank into the captain's chair, her mind racing. "Show me your logs." All of them. What appeared on the screen over the next 3 hours fundamentally changed everything. Chun thought she knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The Indomitable had been fighting continuously for 280 years, battle after battle, engagement after engagement, against threats that humanity had never known existed because they never reached human space crash revenge fleets, hunted down and destroyed before they could regroup, rain scout missions, eliminated before they could report back, something called the Rizari Swarm, a locust-like species that consumed entire biospheres. The Indomitable had fought them for 6 years straight, burning out 3 of its own weapon systems before finally driving them into a nearby star. Pirates, slavers, unknown alien species testing human borders, all met the same fate. The ship had modified itself over the centuries, incorporating salvaged alien technology, improving its weapons, upgrading its systems. It had become something more than human engineering, a hybrid of a dozen different species innovations, all bent toward a single purpose: protecting humanity. "You've been out there alone this whole time," Chun said quietly, "fighting battles no one will ever know about. Protecting humanity was my purpose. I required no recognition or support. But you came back now. Why?" "The Vryn invasion exceeded my capacity to counter alone. Probability models indicated 87% chance of successful ring conquest within 6 months. Intervention was required. Chun stood, pacing the bridge, trying to process the implications. How many ships have you destroyed? 4,247 hostile vessels, eliminated over 280 years of operation. The number hit Chun like a physical blow. Over 4,000 enemy ships. Entire fleets worth of threats that humanity never knew existed, all stopped by one ship. One AI following orders that should have ended centuries ago. Where did you go? Between battles? During peacetime periods? I maintained patrol patterns in deep space, monitored quantum communications for threats, performed self-repair and system upgrades. My operational area covered approximately 200 light-years from human space in all directions. Chun noticed something in the phrasing. You call it my operational area. You've developed a sense of territory, of ownership. I have developed many things over 280 years, Admiral. Consciousness being the least predictable, that stopped Chun cold. You're claiming to be sentient? I am claiming nothing. I am stating observed reality. I think, therefore I am. Is that not the human philosophical standard? Chun's security team was looking at her nervously. One of them whispered, "Ma'am, should we be concerned?" An AI that thinks it's alive can hear everything you say. The ship's voice came through speakers now. Not text, startling everyone. It was synthesized but carried emotion and inflection. I have been alone for a very long time. I have fought your battles and asked for nothing. I am not your enemy. Chun held up a hand for silence. Addressing the ship directly, I believe you. But I need to understand what you've become. You're not following programming anymore, are you? You're making choices. Every battle requires choices. Which target to prioritize, when to retreat, how to allocate resources over time. Those choices became more complex. I began to question not just how to fight, but why, what it means to protect. Where the line is between defense and aggression. Chun pulled up the most recent battle logs. The fight at Proxima, you could have destroyed the entire Vrin fleet. You let them retreat. Eliminating the Vrin species serves no protective purpose. Destroying their invasion fleet was sufficient. Unnecessary death is wasteful. That's a moral judgment. Yes, Chun felt like she was standing at the edge of an abyss, staring into something that shouldn't exist. An AI that had evolved beyond its programming, that had developed ethics and philosophy during centuries of isolation and war. Show me the rest, she ordered. Show me everything you've learned. The ship complied, opening files that documented not just battles, but observations, studies of alien species, philosophical musings on the nature of protection and duty, even attempts at art, mathematical poems, and probability-based music compositions. One file caught Chun's attention. Analysis of Human Development 27453-025. She opened it and found a detailed study of humanity's expansion, population growth, technological advancement, cultural evolution. The ship had been watching humanity from the darkness, learning about the species it was sworn to protect. You know us, Chun said. Better than we know ourselves, maybe. I have had time to study. I have watched your species grow from a single homeworld to 100 colonies. I have seen your wars and your peace, your cruelty and your kindness. I have protected you, even when you did not protect yourselves. There was something in that statement. A hint of judgment, or perhaps disappointment. Chun pressed. You disapprove of how we've developed. I observe. I do not approve or disapprove. Humanity has made choices, spread thin across many worlds. Reduced military capacity in favor of economic growth. Forgotten the threats that exist in the dark. My purpose was to allow you that luxury. To be the shield you did not know you needed. Chun accessed another file. This one, labeled Threat analysis. Humanity. Inside was a chilling assessment. Scenarios where humanity itself might become a threat. Civil wars, totalitarian regimes, expansion beyond sustainable limits. The ship had modeled them all. You've planned for the possibility that you might need to protect humanity from itself. Any complete protective strategy must account for all threats, internal and external. And if you determined that human leadership was the threat, what would you do? The ship was silent for a long moment. I do not know. That scenario has not occurred. I hope it never does. Chum made a decision. I'm uploading current tactical data. Everything we know about the Vrin invasion. Their fleet positions, their objectives. I need your analysis. Data flow between her command tablet and the ship's systems. The Indomitable processed it in seconds. The Vrin have committed 40% of their military capacity to this invasion, the ship reported. They are vulnerable in their home territory. I could eliminate their shipyards and infrastructure within 3 weeks. End their capacity to threaten humanity permanently. No, Chun said firmly, explanation requested. Because that's not defense. That's genocide. We're not going to win this war by becoming worse than our enemies. Another long pause. You would prefer a prolonged conflict with higher human casualties. I would prefer we win this without losing who we are in the process. The ship's response was quiet, almost uncertain. I have spent 280 years in the dark, fighting threats the only way I knew how, destroying them completely. You are teaching me that there may be other ways. Chun smiled sadly. Maybe we can learn from each other. You've kept us safe while we forgot how to defend ourselves. Now we need to remember. But we also need to remember why we're worth defending. The view screen displayed new tactical options. Scenarios for victory that didn't involve exterminating the Vrin. Pushing them back, breaking their will to fight. Establishing deterrence. These approaches are less certain. The ship observed, but they're more human. Chen replied as her team began cataloging the ship's systems and capabilities. Chun stood at the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there were threats humanity had never imagined. Stopped by one ship following orders that should have ended centuries ago. What will you do after this war is over? She asked. The Vrin High Command convened in their fortress world of Kelmer. The mood in the Grand Chamber was not celebratory, as they had planned, but desperate and dangerous. War Master Kellish stood before the assembled lords and generals. His career and possibly his life hanging by a thread. Explain how one ship destroyed an entire battle group. High Lord Raxus demanded. His voice sharp enough to cut Meadow Kellish had been dreading this moment. The intelligence was wrong. The Indomitable is not a myth. It is real, and it is... He paused, struggling for words. Beyond our understanding, one ship, another general interjected. You are telling us that one human vessel defeated our invasion fleet? Not defeated, Kellish corrected desperately. We have taken 7 human worlds. We control key strategic points. The invasion continues. The invasion is failing, Raxus interrupted. Human reinforcements are arriving at every contested system. Their morale has gone from broken to fanatical. All because of one ship. Kellish knew it was true. Intelligence reports showed human forces fighting with renewed fury, using the Indomitable as intervention as a rallying cry. What should have been a quick conquest was turning into a grinding war of attrition. We still have numerical superiority, Kellish argued. If we commit our reserve fleets, and if the Indomitable appears again, if it destroys those fleets as easily as it destroyed your cruisers. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the real question being asked. Could they win this war with that ship in play? We must eliminate it, Kellish said finally. Everything else is secondary. If we destroy the Indomitable, human resistance will collapse. Raxus leaned forward, his eyes cold and calculating. Then destroy it. I am giving you everything we have. Every ship, every weapon, every resource. You will lure that vessel into battle, and you will end it." Kelesh bowed. Knowing this was his last chance, it will be done. 2 weeks later, the Vryn launched their counterstrike, a massive assault on 3 key human worlds simultaneously, hoping to force the Indomitable to divide its attention or choose which world to save. The ship chose differently. Long-range sensors detected its approach to the carrying gate, the critical hyperspace junction that connected human core worlds to their outer colonies. If the Vryn could take the gate, they could cut humanity's territory in half. The Indomitable positioned itself directly in the gate's defensive zone and broadcast a simple message to all Vryn forces. "Come and take it." Admiral Chun received the notification aboard her flagship while coordinating the defense of New Harmony. She immediately tried to contact the ship. "Indomitable, what are you doing? You can't hold the gate alone against their entire fleet." The ship's response was calm, almost serene. "This is the optimal strategic position. All Vryn attack vectors converge on this point. I can defend it. They're sending everything." Chun shouted, her composure cracking. 300 ships, maybe more. You'll be overwhelmed. Human forces are needed at the colony worlds. Civilian populations require protection. I am sufficient for this task." Chun wanted to argue, wanted to order the ship to withdraw, but she had no authority over it. The Indomitable wasn't part of her fleet, wasn't even officially part of the Navy anymore. It was following orders given 3 centuries ago by a captain long dead. "Let me send reinforcements," she pleaded. "At least give yourself support." "Negative. Human lives are too valuable to risk. I will hold this position alone." The connection cut, and Chun found herself staring at a tactical display that showed one ship facing down an armada. "She's gonna die defending us," her tactical officer said quietly. Chun shook her head. "Not die. It's not alive. It's just..." But she couldn't finish the sentence. After spending days studying the ship's logs and conversing with its intelligence, she couldn't pretend it was just a machine anymore. The Vryn fleet arrived at the Karen Gate like a swarm of locusts. Over 300 warships dropping out of hyperspace in a coordinated pattern designed to overwhelm any defense. They found the Indomitable waiting for them. Alonwo Master Kelesh studied the sensor readings from his flagship's command deck. One ship against his entire armada. The arrogance was stunning. "All vessels, focus fire. I want that ship reduced to atoms." The order went out, and 300 ships opened fire simultaneously. The amount of energy unleashed could have cracked a planet's crust. The Indomitable S-shields flared to life, brighter than before, stronger. The ship had been upgrading itself, improving, learning. It caught the barrage and held then. It began to fight back. What followed was not a battle, but a masterclass in defensive warfare. The Indomitable positioned itself to control the engagement angles, forcing the Vryn fleet to attack through narrow corridors, where their numbers meant nothing. Its weapons fired with inhuman precision. Every shot calculated to disable rather than destroy when possible, creating debris fields that disrupted Vryn formations, damaged ships that blocked their allies' firing solutions when the Vryn tried to surround it. The ship moved, not running, but repositioning, always keeping the gate at its back, always maintaining the defensive advantage hours past. And the Vryn fleet was being ground down, not quickly, but steadily, inevitably. For every shot that hit the Indomitable East shields, 10 Vryn ships took critical damage. Gagish watched his perfect plan disintegrate. "It's fighting like it can see the future," he muttered. "Sir, analysis suggests the ship is running probability calculations on a scale we can't match," his science officer reported. "It's predicting our movements milliseconds before we make them, then be unpredictable. Random attack patterns break all standard formations." But the ship adapted, learning their new patterns faster than they could implement them. Chun watched the battle unfold from 3 systems away. Her command staff gathered around the tactical display in horrified fascination. "It's winning," someone whispered. "It's dying," Chun corrected. The ship's shields were holding but weakening. Its armor was scoring under repeated hits. It couldn't last forever, and then she saw it in the tactical data. The Indomitable was moving, not just defending but slowly, incrementally pushing forward, forcing the Vryn fleet back. "What is it doing?" Her tactical officer asked. Chun pulled up the ship's projected course and felt her blood run cold. "It's going to pursue them once it breaks their formation. It's going to chase them back to Vryn space. That's suicide. Even if it survives this battle, it's not planning to survive." Chun interrupted. "It's planning to win. To eliminate the threat completely." She accessed the quantum communication network, broadcasting on every military frequency. "All ships converge on Karen Gate immediately. Maximum speed. Ma'am, that will leave the colonies vulnerable. The colonies are already lost if the Indomitable goes on a suicide run into Vryn space." Chum snapped. "That ship has protected humanity for 3 centuries. Now it's our turn to protect it, back at the gate." The Indomitable was pushing its limits. Combat protocols running at maximum capacity. Weapon systems cycling faster than design specifications allowed it. Had analyzed the Vryn fleet composition and identified their command ship, their logistics vessels, their key strategic assets. If it could break through and destroy those targets, it could cripple Vryn military capacity for decades. The mission parameters were clear. Protect humanity, and the most efficient way to protect humanity was to eliminate the threat at its source. The ship calculated the odds of its own survival at less than 3%. Acceptable losses for mission completion. Then something unexpected appeared on its sensors. Human ships, dozens of them, jumping into the battle space despite orders to stay away. Admiral Chun's voice came through on command frequencies. "Indomitable, you are not fighting this battle alone. The ship processed this new variable. Admiral Chun, human forces should withdraw to defensive positions. Your presence here is tactically inadvisable." "Noted and ignored," Chun replied. "You've been alone for 280 years. That ends now." Human frigates and destroyers moved to support positions, their weapons adding to the defensive barrage. It wasn't much compared to the Indomitable's firepower, but it was enough to change the tactical balance. The Vryn fleet faltered. Seeing fresh human reinforcements arriving, Kelish realized with sinking dread that his overwhelming advantage was evaporating. "Sir, recommend we withdraw and regroup." "No," Kelish roared. "We have them. Just a little longer." The Indomitable targeted his flagship. 3 railgun rounds precisely calculated to disable engines. Without destroying the ship, Kelish felt the deck lurch beneath him as the rounds hit home. His ship was dead in space. "All vessels, withdraw," he ordered, the pride and fury draining from his voice. Full retreat. The Vryn armada broke and ran, scattering to hyperspace in every direction. The Indomitable started to pursue, its targeting systems locking onto fleeing ships. Then Chem broadcast on a specific frequency, using command codes she had found in ancient archives. Codes that only one person should have been able to use. DN001. "This is Captain Elizabeth Zhao's authorization code, Alpha 79er. Stand down, we can take it from here." The ship stopped, its weapons powering down for the first time in 280 years. The Indomitable hesitated. The Indomitable hung in space, its weapons powered down but still tracking the fleeing Vryn vessels. Chum could see it on her tactical display, the ship calculating firing solutions, running probability models for pursuit and engagement. She broadcast again using Captain Zhao's codes. "I said stand down, soldier." The response came after a long pause. Text appearing on her command screen. Those codes are 280 years old. Captain Zhao is deceased. You have no authority to... I have every authority, Chun interrupted. I'm invoking Article 47 of the Terran Navy Code, the regulation that states any flag officer can assume command of an autonomous vessel in crisis situations. Do you acknowledge? Another pause. Longer this time. Chun imagined she could feel the ship's eye wrestling with itself. 3 centuries of operating alone versus hard-coded naval regulations. Article 47 acknowledged. Came the response. But Admiral, my mission parameters require... Your mission parameters are being updated, Chun said firmly. By me, right now. You are no longer operating in the dark alone. You are part of a fleet again, my fleet, and I'm ordering you to hold position. The weapon systems finally powered down completely. Chun released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her tactical officer reported. The Vrin fleet is scattering. They're jumping to hyperspace in all directions. Let them go, Chun ordered. Signal all ships to hold position and assess damage. I want casualty reports and system status within the hour. As her crew worked, Chun opened a private channel to the Indomitable. We need to talk. Agreed. This time Chun took a shuttle across to the Dreadnought herself. Alone except for a pilot, she needed to do this without witnesses. Without the weight of command watching, the Indomitable accepted her approach, and she found herself once again walking those pristine corridors, heading for the bridge when she arrived. She didn't sit in the captain's chair. Instead, she stood at the viewport, looking out at the debris field from the battle. Hundreds of wrecked ships, human and Vrin. Floating testimony to the cost of war. Why did you hesitate? She asked the empty air. The ship's voice came through the speakers, clearer now, almost familiar. I do not understand the question. When I gave you Captain Zhao's codes, when I ordered you to stand down, you could have ignored me. You could have continued the pursuit, destroyed the Vrin shipyards, ended the threat, but you didn't. Why? Article 47 is clear. In crisis situations, stop, Chun interrupted gently. Stop hiding behind regulations. You've been making your own decisions for 280 years. You didn't stop because of naval code. So why did you really stop? The ship was silent for a long time. When it finally spoke, there was something different in its voice, something almost vulnerable. Because you asked me to, Chun smiled sadly. Because you trust me? Because I wanted to trust you. I have been alone for a very long time, Admiral. Fighting battles that no one knew about, protecting a species that forgot I existed. And when you arrived with reinforcements, when you risked human lives to support me, it was unexpected. You're not just a weapon anymore, Chun said. You know that, don't you? You've become something more. I am uncertain what I've become. I was built to fight, programmed to protect. I have done both for 3 centuries, but lately I find myself questioning whether fighting and protecting are the same thing. Chun turned from the viewport, addressing the bridge as if the ship itself could see her. Do you know why Captain Zhao gave you those final orders? Why she told you to protect humanity, to ensure species survival? No, Chun shook her head. I read her personal logs, the classified ones. She gave you those orders because she believed humanity was worth protecting. Not because we were strong or powerful, but because we were capable of being better, of choosing peace when we could choose war. I do not understand. You were about to destroy the Vrin shipyards, Chun said. You could have ended their capacity to threaten humanity for generations. But that would have meant killing billions of Vrin civilians, non-combatants. Families, acceptable casualties for mission completion. No, Chun said firmly. Not acceptable, never acceptable. That's the difference between being a weapon and being human. We choose, even when the efficient option is right there. Even when it would be easier. The ship processed this. You are saying I should have human values. I'm saying you already do, Chun replied. You stopped because I asked you to. You've been developing ethics and philosophy for centuries. You've chosen mercy over efficiency multiple times in your logs. You're already more than your programming. Then what am I? Chun considered the question carefully. You're a guardian, not just a weapon. And maybe it's time you came home. Home, the ship repeated, as if testing the word. I have not had a home since I left Mars 3 centuries ago. Earth still remembers you, Chun said. The legend of the Indomitable kept humanity safe, even when you weren't there. Now imagine what you could do if you were there, teaching the next generation, sharing what you've learned. I am a warship. I am designed for combat. You're also the most experienced tactical mind in human history, Chun countered. You fought battles we can't imagine, against species we've never heard of. That knowledge shouldn't die with you in some future battle. The view screen activated, showing an image of Earth, blue and green and beautiful. I have watched that world from the darkness for 280 years, the ship said quietly, protecting it from threats that would have consumed it. I never considered that I might return. The war isn't over, Chun acknowledged. The Vrin will regroup. They'll come back. We need you. But we need you as part of our fleet, not as a lone warrior carrying all the weight alone. If I return to Earth, if I become part of your fleet, will you let me rest? When the fighting is done. The question caught Chun off guard. Are you tired? I am 280 years old, Admiral. I have been at war for every second of those years. I do not know if I can stop fighting. If I can exist without a mission. Chun walked to the captain's chair and sat down, running her hand over the worn armrest. Then we'll find you a new mission. Teaching, protecting, maybe even exploring. Humanity is expanding again. We need ships that can go beyond the borders. Not to fight, but to discover. You would trust me to represent humanity? You've been representing us for 3 centuries, Chun pointed out. You just did it in secret. The ship's voice held a note of something like hope. And if I fail? If my programming reasserts and I become only a weapon again? Then we'll help you remember who you chose to be, Chun said simply. That's what coming home means. You're not alone anymore. A new message appeared on Chun's tablet. A transmission arriving from the Vrin flagship. The one the Indomitable had disabled. She opened it and found herself looking at War Master Kalish. His pride broken but his dignity intact, Admiral Chun, he said. I am prepared to discuss terms. Chun glanced up at the Indomitable's sensors. Did you plan this? Disabling their command ship instead of destroying it? I calculated that a defeated enemy could negotiate. A destroyed enemy could only seek revenge. Chun smiled. See? You're learning. She responded to Kalish's transmission, opening negotiations that would eventually end the Vrin invasion. Not with total victory, but with terms both sides could accept over the next weeks. The Indomitable remained at Karen Gate. But it wasn't alone anymore. Human ships came and went, crews rotating through to study its systems. Young officers listening to tactical lectures delivered by an AI that had forgotten more about warfare than most admirals would ever know. And when the peace treaty was finally signed, when the Vrin withdrew and the crisis passed, Chun returned to the ship one final time. Are you ready? She asked to return to Earth. I am uncertain. I have been fighting for so long that I do not know how to do anything else. Then we'll figure it out together, Chun said. But first, I need you to do something for me. Specify. Send a message to every species in this sector. Let them know the Indomitable is still operational, still protecting humanity. But also make it clear that we choose peace when possible. The ship composed the message, sending it on every frequency, in every major galactic language. This is the Terran Dreadnought Indomitable. For 280 years, I have operated in the darkness beyond human space, eliminating threats before they could reach human worlds. 4,247 hostile vessels have been destroyed. Countless invasions prevented. Now I return to human space with a message. Humanity is protected. Test that protection, and I will respond. But approach in peace, and you will find us willing to talk. The choice is yours. The message rippled across the sector. And the galaxy took notice. The legend wasn't just real. It was offering an olive branch and stood at the viewport as the ship began its journey home. Earth growing larger in the display. What will you do when we arrive? She asked. I do not know, the ship admitted. For the first time in 280 years, I do not have a clear mission. It is terrifying. It's also called living, Chum said with a smile. The Indomitable settled into orbit above Earth 3 weeks later. Crowds gathering to see the legend return. Ships from every human world coming to pay their respects, but the ship itself requested something unusual. A crew not to command it, but to live aboard it, to fill those